Welcome to Florida's Treasure Coast Market Update.
You better get fired up.
Did I weird you guys out a little bit there? I think it started before I thought it did. Guys, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do it every single Wednesday, or I do it every single Wednesday. And what we're going to do is look at the MLS, and we are going to get a market update. Now, I'll tell you, I do this for myself, man. I share it with everybody because I think if you've got a little bit of real estate nerdery like I do, you're going to appreciate it. But I just want to show you what I'm seeing. And this week, it's been about 3-4 weeks since I've looked up inventory rates. So I'm going to look up 3 different numbers. And before I look them up, I want to explain what it is I'm looking up, right? So inventory rates are with the current amount of inventory we've got on the market. If we didn't take another listing, another home for sale, and add it to that inventory, but we sold at the rate of, 30 days, 45 days, 60 days in the past, how long would it take to get through that inventory, and how many months of inventory do we have? So at the peak, from my research and my research only, so it might be a couple days off, we had about 19 days of inventory here in Port St. Lucie. That's when it was crazy about a year and a half ago, right? Now, when I checked this last, I don't remember what the overall inventory in Port St. Lucie was, but I'll tell you, 450 and below, which is that first-time home buyer price point, was at 2.8 months. When you looked at 500 and above, it went way up to 6.8 months, right? I always say 4 to 6 months is kind of a neutral market. Anything under 4 months is a seller's market. Anything above 6 months is a buyer's market. So very strong buyer's market in that 500 plus range, but a very strong seller's market in that 450 and lower range. So I'm going to check it again today. We'll see how it differs. I'm going to go off the last 45 days of sales. I'm going to share with you why I do that, right? 30 days is such a small amount. And I think that because there are a lot of sales from the last 1, 2, 3 days. I just had a sale yesterday. My staff they're going to enter it sometime today. If they haven't done it yet and they're doing it in an hour, my closing would not show up, right? So you're going to see the last 1, 2, 3 days. If realtors just haven't caught up, they haven't done their job here in the MLS, it's going to be a little bit off. And that is enough, right? 3 days into 30 days, that's 10%. We're going to have 10% error. So I like to use a little bit bigger number so the error impacts us less. But I also don't want to use 6 months because the market 6 months ago was different than today's market, right? So you want a big enough number, but a small enough number, and there's the reasons why. So we're going to get into 3 numbers. The first one is Port St. Lucie single-family home inventory. And then again, I'm going to break it down with Port St. Lucie 450 and below and Port St. Lucie 500 and above. So let's do it here. You guys can walk through and see exactly how I'm doing this. I'm not able to see the screen right now where the comments are, but if you're watching this on YouTube or on Facebook, you got comments, questions, ideas for the next week's market update, just let me know in the comments and I'll absolutely touch on them at the end here. So we're looking at Port St. Lucie, and I'm going to write down these numbers as we're talking. You can see, I'm going to come down to type, and let's come down to single family. You can see right here we got 1,237. I can already tell you that while that's kind of plateaued here in the last couple months, that number actually has come down a little bit. It was in the 1,300s last time I checked it, which was probably 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. So that's a good sign, right? Well, that's a good sign for sellers, not so great for buyers. So now let's come in, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at the, you know what? I got an easier way to do this. Let's look at solds first. And we're going to look 45 days back. So I got to do a little math here. If today is the 15th plus 30, so that would be January 2nd. All right. So let's go. Oh, no, I want that. And we're going to go back to 2023. Okay, so we had 382 that sold. No, it went away. But if I come back and then hit edit search, it should pop up right here, 382. So 382, I don't know if you can see my calculator here, but I'm going to pop it up. 1,237 on the market. And I got to do this differently. I really got to think about this. 1,237 divided by 1.5. I'm sorry. Guys, I'm losing it here. 382 divided by 1.5. I'm doing divided by 1.5 because 45 days is 1.5 30-day periods, right? So we're selling 254 and 2/3 homes every 30 days on average over the last 45 days. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 1237 divided by that 254 and 2/3. And we've got 4.8, we'll just say 4.9 months. 4.9 months. And from memory, again, I told you I couldn't remember what the overall was. I think this is pretty close to what it was a couple weeks ago in Port St. Lucie here, right? So you got 4.9 months, which to me tells me we're in a pretty neutral market, not really a strong buyer's market, not a strong seller's market, and it feels very accurate. That's what it feels like right now. But now, because there's such a distinction, or at least there was a couple weeks ago, and I think it's going to remain the same, such a distinction between the upper level price points, again, 500 above, and the first time homebuyer price points, again, 450 and below. I really want you guys to see that distinction. Why? Because if you're selling a home at 450 or below and you're worried about the softening market, but I'm showing you there's 2.5, 3.5 months worth of inventory, it is a seller's market. It's a seller's market and it's okay to sell, right? If you are hearing from probably realtors or news sources or whatever that, oh man, the market's not as bad as you think, especially in Florida, but you got a $700,000 home and I show you that inventory rates are 7-8 months, you might want to hold off if money is all that matters in your strategy, right? So hopefully this is helpful to some people that are listening and thinking, do I want to make a move or not? So I think I've bored you enough. Let's come down to, we're going to go back to actives. And I'm going to look at a price point up to 450. And you'll see right up here, we've got 633 available right now on the market. So if you were to try to purchase right now, you said, Joe, I want to look at every home on the market up to $450,000 in Port St. Lucie, single family homes only. I'd say, great. We've got 633 to look at. There's a lot to look at, right? Now, let's look at 500 and above. We've got 396 for sale. Okay. So the inventory obviously is smaller once you get into the higher price point. Right now, the median is right around 400,000. So that doesn't surprise me at all. That's completely normal. I'm going to get rid of list price now because we're going to be going over to sold price. Let's go to closed. Again, we're going to go from the 2nd of January. We already got that locked in. And now we're going to come down to, I got to add a field here, price, and we're going to go to sold price. And in that sold price, we're going to look up to 450. And you can see right here in the last 45 days, we've got 300 sales. So that's, I mean, I don't even need a calculator for that. That's 200 every 30 days, right? So doing that math, 633 divided by 200, we were at 2.8. Now we're at 3.16 months. So that inventory's gone up a little bit, but it's still not a strong seller's market, but it's definitely a seller's market. Now let's look at that 500 plus. 500. Okay, here we go. Now we're looking at 50. And that's over 45 days. So again, we got to take 50 divided by 1.5. And you've got 33 1/3. When I take the 396 currently available divided by 33 1/3, yeah, guys, that's a huge change. Huge change in the last couple of weeks. We had 6.8 months. Now we've got a year, 12 months of inventory. What that tells me is if you're not priced perfectly, if you're not staged perfectly, if you don't have a great marketing plan, a strong realtor, if you're not being aggressive, if you don't have something unique and special about your house, if it's not perfectly clean, if you haven't taken care of the landscaping outside, people have so many choices compared to how many are actually purchasing that, I mean, think about it, 33, that's one a day. One sale a day, and they've got 400 options, and only one of them are going to sell, right? And oh, by the way, when one sells, two are going to come back on. So the inventory rates are much higher. I will tell you, when I was selling back in 2008, 2009, when the market was probably at its strongest buyer's market I've ever seen, and hopefully the strongest buyer's market we'll ever see. I remember inventory rates, depending upon the price point, the area, everything else. Our normal market, this was up in Minnesota now, was about 10, 11 months compared to the 4.9 that we saw with the overall Port St. Lucie market right now. So not really concerned about that. But I remember if you went into higher price points, if you went into waterfront, if you went into a secondary property, down here we got oceanfront. Up in Minnesota, it was like a lake cabin. Those would be in the 18 to 24 months inventory ranges, right? So it was very challenging to get those properties sold. Not that you can't sell, but you have to want to sell. You have to be aggressive in every area, including price, to get it sold, right? But again, if you're in that 450 or under range, you're still very strong, and it is not a strong seller's market, but a seller's market. So guys, there are our 3 numbers. Hopefully that helps you guys out a little bit with what we're seeing in the market right now. Again, if you've got any questions, whether you're watching this now or you watch it after I shut down, feel free to always ask those questions, put it in the comments section, and we will get you answers on that. Have an absolutely phenomenal Wednesday.